Yeah.
So, the fleeting excitement of winning. So, I guess the question is what is that, Mike? And then what can we do to prevent our player from having that?
Yeah, right. Well, I didn't take him literally with the 2 minutes. Definitely more figurative terminology to make his point. But his point, yeah, absolutely, is that it doesn't last very long. And that is the norm. I mean, that's the norm for anybody in any accomplishment or any situation or any big thing. We take a look at the research on lottery winners, for instance, and that's pretty well known that lottery winners are no more happy a couple months, maybe 3, 4 months, maybe 5 months, but at least 6 months to a year, they're no more happy than they were before winning, even the huge lotteries. New problems come into play, new stressors come into play. And then who they were before is still who they are today. And therefore, the way that they interpret what happens, the way they respond to things, the emotions they experience, oftentimes the negative emotions, they stay the same. So we'll also take a look at the other side. There are people who have had really bad accidents and who have become disabled. And they're also just as happy as they were before after you push that out a few months because that same person is still within them. And now they just have a new way of having to go through life, but they don't necessarily change and become depressed for long if they do become depressed. So you see this all the time. So that's the first thing I wanted to throw out there, that good and bad things don't necessarily create long-term changes in people. The next thing, though, more related to Scheffler's comment, was a couple things. Like a guy like him who's really achievement oriented. I mean, so yeah, he talks about all the other aspects of his life and the deeper desires of his heart. But he also says, sometimes I don't understand why I want to win so badly. So he also threw that out there. And I think that I'm going to guess that is a bit of a interesting curiosity within himself. That in one sense, all these other aspects of life are so much more important to him. And yet he still wants to win really badly. And so here's the thing I would throw out there. When we're younger, there are certain kinds of experiences that we have that allow us to feel really good. And those are different for different people. So if it's achievement, it means when we have these accomplishments, we get all these kind of nice, warm kinds of interactions with our parents and other people around us. And we get this sense that when this happens, that's when life is really good. It feels really good. They don't think about it as kids, but it's a psychological, emotional state. And then they start going after that state. That's a very typical thing. And so if it's something else, for some people, it's more the social stuff. It's more the relationship orientation or even the really close relations and emotional intimacy that makes them feel good. And so you start to understand that people differentiate their needs in life early on based on what kind of experiences they have on the basis of what they just did. And then they start putting that into these, in a sense, all these different accomplishment pieces. So you see a lot of athletes who have a really strong need to compete and they love that. Well, that's a part of that complex of various situations that have one thing in common: accomplishment and achievement. And so what happens is in these achievement, you get a guy like Scottie Scheffler who I'm guessing has a very high need for achievement. So he goes after and puts so much work into the golf game, and he spends a lot of time with it. He enjoys it. We'll get to that in a little bit. And yet the accomplishment is going to feel good. But the thing about people with a high need for achievement is a couple things that they really care about a lot. They care about constantly checking their progress because they're always having goals of getting better, and they're always wanting to check that progress. They always want to know their feedback. Now, looking at Scheffler, he's always checking, of course, his grip and his face to make sure they're aligned. But not only that, you also see him after the shots checking the face to see, based on a shot, where did he hit it on the face? That's a feedback piece that he's always wanting to know so he can adjust when he needs to. The other thing about people with high need achievement, they feel like they have to earn what they get. Otherwise, it's not going to be satisfying. So for him to put in all this kind of work is not surprising because that's going to allow him to feel like he earns it
Yeah.
or he earned it. And that's going to make it more satisfying, even though it may not last that long. So those are just a few things that are surrounded around the main question. But in reality, there's no way that we can maintain the same feeling for very long. Feelings change on a regular basis. Our emotions are based on the events that are happening in the moment. Those emotions are not long lasting. Emotions are short lived, and they're based on the way that we're interpreting the meaning of the event right now. And so the fact that that event is done means the next day you got a new event. He just went to the Happy Gilmore 2 premiere like the next night.
Yeah.
And so now he's got something else he's doing, interacting with people and interpreting the meaning of that situation as he goes, like we all do. So now all of a sudden, emotions can change. So that's joy doesn't necessarily last that long because emotions are short lived. So that would be my main, more direct answer to that question. That's just the way we function. And now his mood might stay pretty decent for a long time, for a pretty long time. He might be in a better mood for a while. He would, but that's a little different than the joy and this high that he was talking about that he doesn't experience for very long.
Chris, have you had any players that have done anything like had this introspection of this is it? Like I've put in all this work to break par, to break 80, and wow.
Yeah, I think players view winning or view progress or success in different ways. I haven't had players that have had that realization, but I also have had very few players that had the outside of golf team surrounding family experience that Scottie currently has, or at least portrays that he has. And that's what I find so interesting with Scottie is that it's not really his identity. Winning is important to him. He wants to do it, and he's driven to work on his game and be the best. And even when he plays well at any event, he actually comes away and says, yeah, I got some things to work on. So I think the outcome of what he's trying to extrapolate from the round is, yes, the feeling of winning is limited, right? But the experience that I've gained from winning is going to carry on over a longer period of time and allow me the opportunity to implement those things into winning more in multiple events at a higher level. So it's going to be really neat to see how this continues to evolve. It'll be interesting to see how other players start interacting with their own development as far as, is this going to be a really good process for me to try? He seems
Yeah,
extremely happy
sure.
the way he does it, and
Yeah,
happiness, and I'll let Mike touch in on this, but that plays a big role in performance.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's interesting. I think a lot, you're right. I think a lot of people will start to think about, wow, look at Scotty. He's the best player in the world. And look at his attitude and way of thinking about winning. And it doesn't seem to be as important to him. But what's interesting is I think a lot of people will make the mistake to think, so if I don't care as much about winning, maybe that'll help me win. Okay, a little bit of irony there.
That's right.
And I don't think that's going to be the thing that's going to work for him. Because I think with Scottie Scheffler is a genuine piece there. And so if somebody tries to take on his same attitude just so they can win, I think they've lost the point.
And
And
then
yeah, it's a little bit of a trap.